There we go. Hi, everybody. It's Martha, Tuesday, June the 11th. This is the second week of our exploration of I Am God in a wisdom and revelation from mystical consciousness. The book is not required. I will reference and read from the book, as well as some insights I have had from my reading and my sitting in contemplation with this. And I invite you to have your own experience of it, of course, of just the listening, any participation, any reading, or whatever way you relate to it, whatever the book has meant to you. And the class is being recorded so that people that aren't here can hear it, and to put on the Spiritual Life Center Troy website, a ministry I serve up in Michigan. So if you don't want to be recorded and want to share, simply ask me to stop the recording and I'll absolutely do that. So you're free to participate in that way. And thank you. Some of you have sent donations already. Thank you for that very much. And if you want to send a donation, you do it right through the website, marthacreek.com, or through my name, Martha Creek at Gmail, on PayPal, Venmo, pay my rent, send postage stamps. I mean, do whatever makes your tail wag. That would represent the generosity of your heart and your own. I Am God, mystical consciousness. Happy birthday, Julie. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, beloved Julie. Happy birthday to you. Love you,
Thank
honey.
you.
Yeah, love you, sweetie. Glad you made it in here tonight.
Love you. Thank you.
Uh-huh. And there comes your party horn from Francis. So many of us are celebrating you, honey. So Francis, why don't you open this class, honey, with that reading that you loved? So Francis referenced the book. She's found one called Dancing with God.
And
And
I thought of Jeannie when I saw this, and I was going to edit and send it to you, but I'll just read it. So, dancing with God. Every child has danced with God, not the God of should or shh, the God of tippy toes and swirling skirts, rain boots and mud puddles, infectious giggles and divine silliness. When did you stop dancing? Want to dance again?
thank you, honey. So think about that for a minute as we enter a contemplative period for our class. When did you stop dancing? What caused you to stop dancing? And what's the consequences of your stopping dancing or even dancing less? What are some of the consequences? And the poem that Francis shared is from page 36, the chapter Heaven on Earth, page 36. Every child has danced with God. So one of the invitations this week is going to be go and watch some video, go over to YouTube and put in children dancing. Children dancing. And just play a video or two of children dancing. yesterday I had a 9-year-old with me who's his first time at my house. And I was going to the airport to pick up a visiting friend and colleague. And I asked him, does he want to go with me? And he said he did. And he was thrilled. He's never been to an airport. So he's never seen these planes this close. And then he was talking his head off. Hi, Ron. Glad you made it in, honey. And he said, you know what else you may not know about me, Aunt Martha? I'm a great dancer. And I said, is that right? I did not know that about you. And I said, how did you learn to dance? And he said, you don't have to learn to dance. I've not ever had dance lessons or anything like that. You don't have to learn to dance. I just know how to dance and I'm a good dancer. So when did we forget that we don't have to be taught how to dance? Or dance like everybody else? So here's the poem again that Francis just read from page 36 in the text. Every child has danced with God. Not the God of should, not the God of not the God of should or Every child has danced with God. The God of tippy toes and twirling skirts. The God of rain boots and mud puddles. Infectious giggles and divine silliness. When did you stop dancing? Do you want to dance again? Do you want to dance again? Thank you, Francis, for the reference of that. I'm looking now in the text for the poems out of the book that I picked for this week. There's so many. This one is entitled, I Changed the World. I invite you to say it out loud. I changed the world. I changed the world. I change the world. I changed the world, immersed in mystical consciousness. I changed the world, immersed in mystical consciousness. I changed the world by sanctifying. I changed the world by transforming. I changed the world by loving everything I see. I awaken and the world wakes up around me. I am what God is. I am what God is. So, like last week, I'll invite you to say this, and we'll do it for 1 minute. You're all on mute, so you can speak it out loud and still be in private. I am what God is. Please repeat that with me. I am what God is. And keep repeating it. I am what God is. 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 And see if you can get a sense of that in your body. How does it feel when you say it? And if there's an energy in your body, where is that energy? I am what God is. I am what God is. What'd you notice? Anybody want to share here? Anything you can observe, including resistance to it? There may have been a voice going blah, 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 blah. What'd you experience in that minute of practice? I am what God is. Anybody? Marcia?
I kept feeling my throat open up more and more as I spoke it. The power got greater, and that was pretty remarkable. I think that's where my power needs to reside.
I think so
Speak
too,
truth.
Marcia. I appreciate you saying it, honey. I had a a special sense of it here in the throat area today too.
Mhm.
So we're gonna do a little more with that in a minute. Anybody else? Anything you noticed or sensed or felt or resisted? Anything's welcome here. Ron? Can you unmute? Ron, are you able to unmute?
I did, trying
There
to,
you go.
here we go. I had just come in from my walking and it was so beautiful today. Like I got carried away. That's why I was running late. Went on to 5 miles. So, it's I live in a condo complex and it's really just beautiful. It's just so lush and green and beautiful. I just keep getting the sense, and this goes back to last week's poetry too. It's like I'm just feel so absorbed into it. That just being part of all this, being that particle of it. I can't really describe it, but it's just such a wonderful feeling that like that poem from the Prayer of Faith, God is my all. I I have no fear. It's just totally absorbed into that, seems like, and realizing just that I'm just that part, and it's wonderful to be that part. Sort of helps me deal with, when I start thinking about things like
Yeah.
death and all.
Did you say death when you're
Yeah.
thinking about death? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's maybe not such a big deal after all.
Yeah, drop
Just
the maybe.
I'm
Yeah.
a particle now. I'll continue to be a particle. I don't know about consciousness and all, but it's interesting. That part's interesting to think about anyway. Thank you.
Thank you also. Yeah.
Martha,
Yes, Pat. Uh-huh.
I felt very sad. And, again, some of that maybe we've been dealing with unbelievable amounts of stress. What made me feel sad was that I realized I haven't been holding this in my heart like I
Right. Yeah.
usually do.
Yeah.
And it was almost like missing a lover, and I'm aware that some of this may be physical at the moment, but still that's never stopped me before. So
This is beautiful. That's a great analogy for it, honey. It's like
well, it's real.
yes, yes. And when I realized, oh, wait a minute, I've not been in my spiritual practice. I've not been speaking my I am. I've not been experiencing and feeling and
Uh-huh.
and atoned
Anchoring.
in the I
Anchoring.
am. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But so just caution, of course, this is for me to hear, and some of you may benefit, like, just be careful not to guilt and hate yourself over it. Like, what am I thinking? Whatever, just none of that. Just right though back to, like, I am
Right.
what God is. I am that I am. I am what God is. I am what God is. Yeah. It's freer in it. Pat, what happened to the sadness as you spoke about it?
I got a little stronger internally.
Yeah. It shows in your face too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So home again, home again. Cassandra, thank you, Pat.
Years ago, my mantra was, I am God, I am God, I am not different from God, but I would always say it silently. So I haven't done it in a while. So now to come back to this class and say it out loud, expressing it out loud, I can feel the difference of saying it verbally out loud. It's easier to believe Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you too. I mean, thank you for just giving it a go and trying it on for yourself. And Verna asked about where we can find the recordings. I can send them to you, or you can go over to SLC, which is Spiritual Life Center, abbreviated SLC, on YouTube, and they'll be posted there sometime this week. The one from last week is there, and then this one will be posted later. Yeah, and keep your pen and paper ready. I mean, every time you come in next week too. So, uh-huh.
Troy.
Oh yeah, thank you, Ron. SLC Troy. Go to youtube.com, and then search SLC Troy. And all the recordings are there, including our Sunday services, which you're welcome to watch or join in, be a part of. Whatever you want to do is there also. And they're uplifting, and you'll likely be blessed by looking at them, and send them off to people if you want to as well. If you know somebody that could use a little uplift, or maybe suffering, or I say, if you know somebody who's suffered just enough, tell them to come to the class next week, or go look at some of these recordings on there too. So let's try this now. This is a little different, but see, try putting your hands at your throat like this. And imagine some energy coming out of your hands. Like healing energy. And you're all on mute again, so it'll be private. And go back to that same sentence, that same mantra, and speak it again for another minute. I am what God is. 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 Big deep breath. And anybody, any noticing any energy in your hand, any kind of experience, how was it different to direct an energy like that into the area of the throat? The throat, is for speaking, certainly. The throat is also for listening. The area of our body for listening, to hold a certain throat energy, for us to open our throat, to open to listening, open to connecting with God, to atonement, to hearing, to realizing this what we're saying, this mantra, I am what God is. Ron Biddle.
I got so tickled at myself.
I saw it.
I-
It was inspiring to see.
I was there, I am what God is, and all of a sudden, I am what God is. Oh, wow. Okay. I just got so tickled at myself when it hit me.
So
Oh.
think of the implications of this.
Yeah.
You know, if somebody says, Ron, Ron, you're so arrogant. Ron, you're so righteous. Ron, you're so old. Ron, you're so knuckleheadish. What would it be like to just laugh at that? Like I am what God is.
That's God.
That's God. That's God, knucklehead God. I am what God is. What if it was all right? What if everything anybody could ever say about us or call us, what if it was all right? I am what God is. Martha, you're fat. Girl, you need to lose some weight. It's like, I've had the same thought. I am what God is.
Well, in true fashion, when I get my energy up, I can be dangerous because I amended it. And I made it, I am all that God is.
Yes, that's beautiful,
Yeah.
Pat. And
Yeah.
that's similar to what we did last week.
Oh, yeah.
Everything I see, I am that. I am all that God is. I am all that God is.
Had me laughing at myself, though. Guess I'm recovering fast.
Well, you've recovered some in these few minutes we've been together because it shows in you. And like this is like the invitation then through this course and through the study is to get some embodiment of this. So it's not just a platitude of I'm all that God is, but a new realization of this. I am what God is. I am all that God is. And some sense of embodiment of that as the truth, as a greater truth, not just a mantra or a platitude or an affirmation. Julie,
I found it really helpful for embodiment. The first time around, I'm like, my mind was pretty involved, and that's so I'm not sure embodiment happened, but I was kind of like hearing, like most of me is like kind of is there, and then there's the peanut galleries going, well, prove it. What does that mean? And like just kind of heckling as in general. And the second time with the energy, it's like I have a lot of energy that runs through my hands, and it usually comes out pretty much on demand. And so to be able to feel that made it, okay, there's your proof. Okay, there it is right there. And it was a lot easier to get a more visceral feeling instead of saying it and hoping to feel something more thorough.
Yeah.
And so that's how I can practice with this. So I appreciate that. Thank
I
you.
hope you will, honey. And you may find more effect by directing it to your heart or to your shoulders or to your crown or to your solar plexus or whatever. So play around with it and see as you direct this energy, like what happens and what opens. And did your heckler section, your heckler section kind of settle down some, honey? Did it?
Quite a
Fine.
bit.
Yeah.
And, there's one point it's like, all right, well, if it's God's, turn it into wine, like heal yourself with it. And like, well, okay, it's good enough for now, but it was mostly there.
Yeah, absolutely. Though, let's heal ourselves, and let's certainly heal ourselves to whatever extent healing is possible, for sure, honey. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to share about this one? So the other one I picked okay, Marcia, go, honey.
Sorry, I was a little behind there. I was just amazed at, usually I'm speaking like this, and there can be a little raspiness at times. By the end of that minute, it was like I wasn't shouting, but it was oratory. I am what God is. And the energy was expanding everywhere. It was filling the space.
Well, I say bring it.
That's right.
Bring it. So whatever voice has been you up until now, there's room for another one.
Yep.
And the world is ready for the message of that, honey. All right, so this one is from page 50, and this chapter is on healing the world. So this one's a little bit longer, and I'm going to read these like I read them in my practice. So it's somewhat slower just for matters of this mysticism. That's the nature of the mysticism, as we learned last week, as I read from the opening section of the book, that it's not just to be poured through, so to speak, but to be taken in. So consciously reading it a little slower, a little more deliberate. We're invited through this to enter an actual mystical realm and to actually transform our consciousness, therefore transforming the world that we live in. So to read the verses slowly and consciously, and to carry with our reading and our listening a spiritual energy. And to do our best then to hear the words as revelation. To actually hear the words as revelation. We don't really quote, do anything. We don't really do anything. In I am God consciousness, things just happen. In I am God consciousness, things just happen. Divinity transmutes the self, and lives fill with spontaneity and wonder. Divinity transmutes the self, and lives fill with spontaneity and wonder, flow and synchronicity, the one in the many, love and compassion, all, and as Pat would say, all, ALL, all perfectly choreographed by the Creator. Always, always perfectly choreographed by the Creator. always perfectly choreographed by the Creator. We are not in charge of this love pageant. Now, this one kicked me a bit. And right after I was frustrated by it, I was freed by it. So I hope you get a smidgen from it that I got from it. And here it is. We're not in charge of this love pageant, nor can we improve it. We're not in charge of this love pageant, nor can we improve it. Did you ever really make a decision in your life? Or did things change and you called it your decision? Let go of the wheel. Let go of the wheel. Imposing your agendas on creation is what causes problems in the first place. Martha, imposing your agenda on creation is what causes problems in the first place. Let go of the wheel. Let the music of the spheres lead you back to the garden. Let the music of the spheres lead you back to the garden and rejoin the celebration. Rejoin the celebration. We don't really do anything. I am God consciousness. In I am God consciousness, things just happen. Divinity transmutes the self, and lives fill with spontaneity, wonder, flow, and synchronicity, the one in the many. Love and compassion, always, always perfectly choreographed by the Creator. We are not in charge of this love pageant, nor can we improve it. Did you ever really make a decision in your life? Can you know that to be true? Or did things change and you called it your decision? Let go of the wheel. Imposing, so I'm going to invite you to say this with me now this time. Imposing my agenda on creation is what causes the problems in the first place. Imposing my agendas on creation is what causes problems in the first place. Let the music of the spheres lead you back to the garden. Rejoin the celebration. comments, observations, realizations? What can you take away from that piece? Jeannie?
I can take away a whole lot of hope because for decades I thought I ran the world. Had to make decisions for everybody, make sure they did this and that, always putting what I think they needed into the present moment. That was so energy consuming that it was like I have to take a nap. It never paid off. And it's just wonderful to see it in print again. I mean, just to know I can say it. And yes, it's a big relief. So thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, Martha.
You're welcome, honey. Thank you for speaking it. Reverend Ron?
It's very freeing. It invites me to live in the flow.
Yeah. And what a difference, though. What a difference to be in the flow as it is. As it is. So, like last week, I shared there is a director of the universe and it ain't me.
No, it ain't me either. Mm-mm.
So this is an example though, like as Reverend Ron speaks, it's like one thing to say I'm in the flow. It's another thing entirely to actually be in the flow. Thank you, Ron. Cassandra.
This is the reason why I still question, do we really have any free will at all? Some days I think yes, and then most days I think no. I don't know what's going on.
Well, which is more freeing to you, that we have it or we don't?
Freeing is that we do have it. Maybe the path just takes longer because you chose that direction. You got off the yellow brick road and take a detour for a day or two.
Yeah, well, that might be our next class, because I mean, I've been looking at this since I was a small child. Since the first notion of free will entered my mind. And I never really believed it. And I've tried to exercise it. I've tried to prove it out. I've tried to demonstrate, manifest through will and free will and choice. And it's a interesting mystical experience, because I've had some absolute experiences, mystical experiences, where it looked like a command, an invocation, a spoken word caused something.
Yeah.
I've also had experiences where the spoken word, a command, an invocation, apparently didn't have any effect. So then, which is it?
Both and. I don't know.
Well, maybe. Maybe. And I found over the years studying with Dr. David Hawkins, do y'all remember him? But I loved him and I listened and listened and listened. And he was where I got permission to let my notions of free will go, at least to some degree. And he said it as the DVD of your life is already burned. The DVD and how your life's going to go has already been established. So you can spend your life trying to change how the movie turns out, or you can just sit back and watch the movie. and see how it goes. And that was more freeing to me. That was more freeing to me to accept whatever created me had a perfect life choreographed for me. And the only problem is when I thought I knew how my life ought to go. So my imposing my thoughts, my imposing my agenda on my possibly predestined life was stressful to me. So I had less stress when I surrendered to the way of God. And Eckhart Tolle says it as, you don't have a life, life has you. And that will either frighten us or free us. Others? What agendas are you imposing onto creation? And what's the consequence? So a friend of mine this week had a stroke, and the blood pressure was around 200 over 130. If you know blood pressure readings. And he was intent on willing his blood pressure to be normal. So where's the problem? Blood pressure a problem? Medicine a problem? Not taking a medicine a problem? A stroke a problem? Or it's perfectly choreographed by Creator? So at age 14, I had acute appendicitis, and I wouldn't admit how sick I was to my mother and my family because I did not want to be an inconvenience, nor did I want to be a financial burden on her, who was already struggling to get by having to go to a doctor or have any additional bills. So I kept saying I was fine for about 3 days until I got so sick I couldn't really respond. And I hadn't eaten and was vomiting. And I had a ruptured appendix and then was taken in through emergency for an emergency surgery. And then I went into a coma. I had gangrene and peritonitis. And it went on for about 3 weeks. So the wound had to be opened again for all of that to be drained off and emptied out and purified. So I've got some direct experience of trying to will myself well. And my great attempts at that ended up in a ruptured appendix. Or it was Creator's perfect choreography for my life. Where's the problem? I shouldn't have waited. I should have told her. I shouldn't have had those thoughts. The doctor should have left the wound open and not closed it if it was that bad. So every should in the world opposing reality. How do I know it should have happened? It did. I don't have to like it a bit. And it should have happened simply because it did happen. Experiences, comments, questions, anybody? What is your thoughts about free will? We have it or we don't. If in the context of this teaching, it's perfectly choreographed by Creator. So if that's true, where does it leave free will?
Deciding to follow it.
Aligning with the reality.
Mhm.
I did a talk, one of my favorite ones over the years. It's been, and it's coming back to me now, was you're either doing it as God's way. So it's God's way or you're in the way. God's way or in the way of God. So it's free will then, accepting it, aligning with it. Like, and as Ron says, this is the flow of it. So if there's free will, then it's like, I'm going to choose to be in the flow of this. That means the opposite of resisting, the opposite of opposing, the opposite of shoulding. This shouldn't have happened. This shouldn't have been it. Then if there's free will, then, and thank you, Pat. Like, then my will is to be in the will and the way of it. This is the way of it. I will myself to be in as it is, as the way of it. Ron?
What about like with Myrtle Freeman, where though well, I guess you'd say she prayed herself well, or suppose, I mean, that's the story anyway. I mean, how does that fit in with this?
Well, that's, everybody here would answer it differently. That's part of the story. She said, I'm a child of God, I don't inherit sickness. And then reversed or avoided or whatever tuberculosis. And whatever the consequence of that was. And then it's like, okay, who knows what happened, what a healing was there, and Myrtle Fillmore still died.
Yeah, everybody does.
Everybody does. So then I heal myself from this, and I didn't heal myself from that. Or I heal myself from that and then got in a car accident. And then Daddy used to say, honey, regardless of how old I am, when I die, they'll say cigarettes killed him. So they won't say he lived a good life and died at 100. They'll say he lost his battle with cancer. Cigarettes killed him, regardless of how old I am. He also used to say, I felt like he was saying this to comfort the nurses and doctors. They would say, I'm so sorry, as this cancer was spreading around from the throat into the esophagus into the lung. And they would have to come out and tell him it had spread. He was as calm as could be. And he would often pat their hand or something. And he often said, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Ron?
So it's like Myrtle was healed, but what about the other fellow with tuberculosis is praying his heart out? So there you go.
Absolutely, honey. Yeah. Yeah. And it may have prayed more than Myrtle Fillmore prayed. It may have had more people praying for him than Myrtle Fillmore had praying for her. Who knows? But my deepest spiritual practice is accepting the mystery of it. Accepting the mystery of it. And accepting the mystery of God's choreography, which doesn't suit me often. Because, see, I want to say, now look, let all the good-hearted, kind-hearted, contributing people live a long life, and you can take some of these rascals on out of here.
Yeah.
You can take some of these knuckleheads and just balance us out of here a little bit, but everybody that's kind-hearted and good and contributing, move on. Skip over us, because we need all the help we can get here. Ron, Reverend Ron.
Reflecting on how much my message this Sunday aligns with your class tonight. I talk about the universe continually promoting reconciliation and harmony and balance, and invites us to be part of it, which is moving toward something better, a better future that is inevitable. And we have the choice whether or not to join the universe in that.
Thank you, Reverend Ron, for saying it. Thank you for your little heart, Susie, that heart of love up there. It's like, if that could be the takeaway from tonight, then, as part of our practice.
That's right.
If we
Yes.
actually believed
Yes.
the next greatest iteration is here now.
Yes.
Even in the loss, even in the change, even in the illness, even in all that is, that this is all moving in the direction of the next greatest iteration. Would have less stress.
Mm-hmm.
Marcia?
I'm reminded, not that I'm Buddhist, I'm Buddhist, but suffering is optional. Suffering is optional. It's how we approach it, our response.
Putting our agendas over onto creation. Yes. Giving my should list to the universe. Yes. Versus bowing to the universe and choosing as I can alignment. Accept what I cannot change.
Change the things that I
Accept
can.
what I cannot change. That's right, Susie. And change what I can.
And know the difference.
And know the difference. And know the difference. So be it. Okay. It's time to close. Love
I
to
have
you.
to tell you first, you are loved here in Canada. Moncton, New Brunswick, I love you. I love your words. I love everything about you. You're amazing. And I'm blessed to be here tonight. Just want to let you know.
Oh, thank you, honey, for those kind words. I'm delighted you're here.
Now
And
I'll be back.
I love you too, and love that you're here, all of you. So come back again and invite anybody that wants to come, and keep your practice going. Use some mirror time, and I am what God is. I am all that God is, and watch some funny kids dancing and get your tail to wagging sometime between now and next Tuesday.
Yes.
Thanks,
Love
Martha.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Martha.
Everybody.